Why is it that two people, given the exact same starting capital, education, and opportunities, can end up in completely different financial realities? One builds scalable systems, acquires compounding assets, and achieves total sovereignty over their time. The other works 40 hours a week for 40 years, constantly chasing the next raise, only to stay trapped on a treadmill of earning and spending. The difference isn't luck, intelligence, or hard labor. It comes down to a fundamental psychological divide in how their brains perceive value, risk, and resource allocation. Wealth is not a cash amount sitting in a bank account. Wealth is a cognitive operating system. Before you ever see financial abundance in your external world, your mind must undergo a psychological shift in how it calculates the true cost of choices. Why do the majority of people spend their lives building someone else's equity? And what is the specific cognitive framework that allows a rare few to break free and build generational autonomy? Welcome back to Sigma Intelligence. Today, we are decoding the psychology of wealth and dissecting the exact mental models required to think rich. To build true wealth, you must first eliminate the single biggest mental fallacy in modern society, confusing high income with actual wealth. Income is linear. It is the money you exchange for your active time, focus, and physical energy. Wealth, on the other hand, is lateral and exponential. Wealth is the collection of assets working for you behind the scenes when you aren't in the room. Most people operate on an income consumption loop. They increase their skill set to earn a higher paycheck. As soon as their income rises, their lifestyle inflates to match it, upgrading cars, housing, and social flexes. This locks them into higher monthly overhead, forcing them to sell even more of their future time just to sustain their present lifestyle. A wealth-oriented mind operates on a completely different premise: asset acceleration. When a true builder earns capital, they don't see it as spending money for immediate gratification. They see every dollar as a silent, loyal employee. Their primary goal is to deploy those employees into income-generating assets that buy back their most precious, non-renewable resource, time. How a mind calculates risk determines its absolute financial ceiling. The average individual is dominated by loss aversion, a psychological bias where the fear of losing what you currently have completely outweighs the potential of acquiring something far greater. Driven by this fear, most people play a purely defensive game. They settle for fixed, predictable returns, completely missing out on high upside opportunities because they over-index on short-term stability. High-level thinkers operate on asymmetric risk and probabilities. They actively search for scenarios where the downside is strictly capped and manageable, but the potential upside is asymmetric, meaning it can scale 10, 50, or 100 times over. Starting a digital business where the downside is a few $100s and some lost hours, but the upside is scalable global reach. Acquiring equity in asymmetric assets where loss is capped at 100%, but growth potential is mathematically unlimited. They don't avoid risk. They price it, manage it, and lean directly into high upside asymmetry while the crowd seeks the illusion of safety. If your income is directly tied to the hours you physically work, you have an absolute ceiling on your leverage. You are playing a linear game in an exponential world. The foundational shift in thinking rich is transitioning from time-based value to scale-based value. Your market reward is never determined by how hard you work. It is determined by the uniqueness and scale of the value you provide. A laborer working 12 hours of intense physical toil creates linear, localized value. An engineer or creator who spends those same 12 hours writing an automated script, building a business model, or producing digital media creates value that can be duplicated 1,000,000 times at zero marginal cost. The wealth builder constantly asks one fundamental question: how can I build a system, own an asset, or deploy capital that delivers value independently of my physical presence? When economic shifts happen, markets crash, or industries get disrupted, How does your mind react? In psychological terms, your response depends entirely on your locus of control. People who struggle to build lasting wealth usually display an external locus of control. They view market swings, tax laws, or macroeconomic conditions as oppressive forces outside their influence. They adopt a passive posture, waiting for external conditions to improve before taking strategic action. Sovereign minds possess a fierce internal locus of control. They operate under the assumption that regardless of market chaos, political shifts, or external turbulence, they retain complete ownership over their strategic execution. When an industry collapses, they don't complain, they pivot. When a business model dies, they adapt their leverage. By taking radical accountability for their financial reality, they strip external circumstances of their power to dictate their future. Shifting your mind to think rich isn't about wishful thinking or quick hacks. It is a systematic recalibration of your daily choices. Here is how you apply the Sigma Intelligence Framework to build true wealth. Audit your spending for friction, not deprivation. Stop wasting capital on low-value status symbols that impress people you don't even like. Divert that capital directly into buying equity, compounding assets, and high-income skill acquisition. Shift from consumer to producer. Every time you interact with a product, platform, or service, stop viewing it as a customer. Analyze it as an operator. How does this business generate margin? Where is its leverage? How can I own a piece of a similar engine? Master the long horizon. Wealth is built in silence and compounding over years, not months. Train your brain to tolerate invisible progress today, so you can enjoy undeniable autonomy tomorrow. True wealth is not about flaunting luxury. It is about achieving complete immunity from financial desperation. When you stop trading your life for temporary status and start deploying your capital for long-term leverage, you unlock the ultimate form of power, unrestricted control over your own existence. What is one mental barrier holding most people back from building real wealth? Let's break it down in the comments below.